Here's your smart fact of the day. So, who are Colin and Samir, and what is the Colin and Samir show? Well, for their 1 million subscribers, they are not to be introduced. But for the rest of us on YouTube or on podcasts, we wonder who these guys are. Actually, these guys are running a very successful show wherein they are actually interviewing other creators and influencers. And what a fascinating show they've got. In this episode of Smarter with Sid, what I'm trying to do is figure out how they've reached where they've reached and what is the secret of their success. So let's go. On Smarter with Sid, what I try to do is figure out what the context of the discussion is, and then probably give a little bit of an analysis, then a few first principles if there are any, and then basically move towards the takeaways that you and I can have. First of all, I think that Colin and Samir and their show has kind of signaled to us the very big reality of, YouTube creators and influencers. And names like Cody Ko and Jake Paul and Mr. Beast and so many others are kind of unfamiliar to all those people who've got a gray beard like mine. And maybe they're the ones who we need to actually be paying attention to as, this new media comes through. So that's the context. I think it's extremely important for all of us who are connected to some sort of selling, some sort of marketing, some sort of business activity, some sort of entrepreneurship to understand that this world has now matured. It is as if that Colin and Samir are talking of celebrities like, Amitabh Bachchan or, some other people who are more famously known to us. But today they're talking about people who are not known to us. So my suggestion to you would be, even before we dissect how Colin and Samir have reached where they've reached, is to check out their show and figure out all the other guys that you guys need to know of, right? And yeah, I think that is the secret of their success as well. Look at their superb formula. Their formula is they interview creators and influencers who are making it big on YouTube. I think they probably are doing it for YouTube right now. I don't think that they're doing it for, let's say, Instagram or other social media, but that's okay. What is extremely important is that they're doing a real killer job on YouTube. And the reason why they do it is because A, they understand the territory, because they've been doing this for the longest time themselves. They've kind of failed in their creative pursuit enough times in order for them to understand what goes on in the mind of a creator or an influencer. And the second is that they are also very strongly connected to very good interviewing technique because of their backgrounds, their earlier jobs, wherein they were announcers and stuff like that. So they bring a lot of that experience to the table, and they really reach into the minds and hearts of these new creators and influencers that we should anyways know all about, especially if you're in marketing. Now, Colin and Samir are a wonderful act because they play off each other. I think Colin's got a personality, Samir's got a personality, and I can see that they have a very natural chemistry around them, right? So what is this natural chemistry? I think it's because of their different backgrounds. Colin, clear, stereotypical white male, if you look at it from the face of it, but a very, nuanced gentleman. Samir is of Indian descent, and in fact, I can immediately connect to the fact that his father might be having an accent like mine. The fact is that both of them are such an unlikely act that they kind of make things work. Colin's the quieter one, Samir's the one who leads the discussions and all of that, but Colin comes up with those really interesting points. So it's a nice thing to observe. You see, they're interesting interviewers in their own right. So you could watch them without being bored, even if the guest may be boring, because they have the ability to actually extricate something which is of value to other people. Now, what explains their success of 1 million subscribers? Their success is predicated on the fact that a lot of young people, especially Gen Zers or millennials, want to look at creators and aspire to be creators in some way or the other, and are looking towards making that a career. So I think that is their core audience. And the secondary audience is, all those people who are actually interested in the influencers that they're interviewing. So that's why they've got this perfect gig. A, they're wonderful interviewers. They play off each other really well. They bring bags of experience to the whole thing. B, they're also talking to people who have their extremely strong communities and strong following. So if, say, for example, Mr. Beast is being interviewed by Colin and Samir, course, Mr. Beast's people, subscribers, followers, fans are going to be there as part of the whole equation. So I think that's a nice gig. I think that's a very good model. That's a very good working model to ensure great views, to ensure great subscribers themselves. And if you look at their rocket ship growth, that has happened in the past, say, 1 year or maybe 1.5 years. But a lot of times what we don't kind of look at is we only celebrate them when they've got 1 million subscribers or when they're doing some great stuff that is being talked about and stuff like that. But what we don't see is their journey as to how they've reached there. Now, both Colin and Samir had media-oriented jobs. In fact, their small setup, if I'm not mistaken, got acquired by a bigger company. They were into sports, so that has got nothing to do with all the different kinds of influences that they've got. But they learned along the way. They were part of that whole field of media and, kind of asking questions and probing ones at that and being pleasant on camera, because then that's a really tough thing to do. So they had that thing. And so that's the first lesson I take. Since we've gone beyond the context now, the first lesson that I take is they've put in the hours to actually understand what their product can be. And of course, when they hit product market fit, which is the Colin and Samir show, they had understood a lot of the stuff that didn't work for them. The second thing that I take away from them is that in their journey, they did not remain connected to, let's say, sports or let's say whatever they were doing at a particular point in time and saying, okay, that's what we are. They kind of connected to opportunities. In fact, what they have done very successfully, to my mind, is to look at the lightest of opportunities. And they kind of did a video of Will Smith jumping down some or paragliding or something of that sort on his 50th birthday. But the way in which they were always part of the network, always part of the fabric. So they were there in the place that counts. And this becomes extremely important for any creator or influencer to understand that they have to be there in, say, Los Angeles or London or Mumbai or whatever it may be. It's the unfortunate truth. You might be a really good creator in, say, Indore, but unless and until you get down and start networking with right people, it may not actually help. Sad truth, there it goes. The third thing, and really important, is they remain humble and they make the guest the star of the show, which is so cool. People are interested in talking with them. And I think the interest of talking with Colin and Samir makes the show really worthwhile. What they're doing is that they are actually extricating certain details about how do you become a creator or an influencer rather than that person's personalities or the kind of amazing things he did. Otherwise, that would have been a very normal kind of show. But this is a different kind of show because it focuses on the way in which they have become a creator or an influencer. So that's also very important in today's day of parasocial relationships, because in a parasocial relationship, even the fan feels that, okay, I can be a creator someday, or there's a relatability involved in the struggle and the hardships of everybody involved. So Colin and Samir are two people who were introduced to me by my daughters. They run an account called Iconic Cakes. And they started looking at these guys and they showed me Colin and Samir about a year back or a year and a half back. And I started looking at them and they were really good. As Iconic Cakes increased their viewership on, YouTube or Instagram or TikTok and stuff like that, and became legit influencers themselves, I started understanding their world, right? My daughter's world as if, from a new perspective. And then I realized Colin and Samir actually know so many people like these kids, and they know how to deal with them because they've been in the craft for such a long time. I thought that was my biggest takeaway from the whole thing. I hope you liked this episode of Smarter with Sid. Many more to come from where this came from. And I think that this particular podcast / YouTube show, or whatever you may want to call it, do subscribe. Like the 1 million subscribers that Colin and Samir have, maybe I'll have a fraction of that. But whether or not, do check out all the other stuff from IVM podcasts and you will freak out on some of the really cool stuff that they've got going there. And I remain very faithfully yours, the Traveling Professor. Do connect with me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. Ciao.